Welcome to Chart, where we chat about art.
Wait a minute, let's change this up. Cue the new music.
Hi, welcome.
This episode is special because we'll be cracking open a cold one and talking about our experience in Venice last year when they had the worst floods in 50 years. But it was also loads of fun whilst also being devastating to art.
Kick back, relax, grab a drink, and enjoy the first episode of our new series. Love ya!
How do we start this?
Hi, welcome to Crack an Open with a
Crack an open. Okay, let's start again. Welcome to Chart, where we chat about art. This episode is special because we'll be cracking open a cold one and talking about our experience in Venice last year when they had the worst floods in 50 years. But it was also loads of fun whilst also being devastating to art.
It wasn't really devastating.
It wasn't devastating to
sucked
art.
for the art.
It was the best thing that ever happened to Biennale, actually.
I mean, apart from some of them which were closed.
Yeah,
it was
because of the flooding.
really fun.
Many were close.
Together.
Right. We should start at the beginning.
And what a beginning that was.
What a beginning that was, where we went on this study trip to Venice. And the day before, I remember my WhatsApp group of class just exploded with photos and videos of Venice being flooded. And people saying, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. This is dangerous, we're going to drown, oh my God. And then the evening before, going with Christian Hunt for boots, for wellies.
I mean, when I woke up the morning of the trip, there was like 200 messages in the group chat for the class. Everyone's saying like, actually, I'm not going to go. Like my mum won't let me. But I think loads of people were just a bit freaked out, like up to the trip.
It was an extremely interesting sociological experience. It was 10,000 messages divided by 4 people.
Right.
And somehow they created this all of chaos and fear and paranoia with their stupid videos of boats sinking
like
from anywhere else but Venice, because none of them were happening in Venice, I think. And people were freaking out. And somehow these 4 people managed for other people who were not scared until that point to have like mental breakdowns and being like, I don't want to go.
I think the 4 of us all liked the chaos.
It
was loving it. I want to pick already the flowers from my
The
burial.
university would not allow us to go if it was genuinely dangerous.
Right.
I hope not, but
I hope not.
I
want to hope that they wouldn't. But the funny thing is that after all this snowball of fear and paranoia and all that hit the WhatsApp group the next morning when normal people woke up, everyone is like, what? Like, it's fine. I have a summer house in Venice and it gets flooded every day, every year. It's okay, guys, whatever. And they still were like, I feel attacked because you're not taking my fear seriously.
Right.
Also, it was really funny how the people who kind of started the chaos actually showed up in the airport.
I was getting there.
Yeah.
Picture us loving all the chaos and the memes. I was like, yeah, this is great. And of course, feeling sad for the people who had
You did not feel sad, don't lie.
I felt sad for the people who had panic attacks. I did.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
some people, it's fine
Not
if
really
you're genuinely concerned, but there was just so many people trying to rile up everyone, be like, oh my God, it could be so dangerous.
And then the great thing is that we get to the airport and everybody who was like steering the fire of chaos was there. They were like, yeah, I'm coming. So it's like people who were just afraid and got completely mind washed by all these horrible pictures and stories that they were like putting on the WhatsApp group. They didn't come in the end. And it was so cruel. And I think that's where we first drew a line between the cool and uncool people.
Are we uncool?
We were the uncool.
We are the lame people.
Yeah.
I think we are.
We're the people that laugh the most, though.
Yeah, I had so much fun on that trip. Like, I don't think there's ever been a school trip where I've laughed that much. But I also think it was a study trip, but I studied the alcohol menu maybe too often.
We studied the bar.
We'll come to that part in the story.
Yes.
Yeah.
You get a whole chapter.
So we get there, okay?
Our viewers should know that we weren't going to Venice just for the meme. There was actually the 2019 Biennale happening.
Yeah.
And that was the point of
What is
us
the
being there.
Biennale?
The Biennale is this old-fashioned tradition where every 2 years a city hosts this massive art fair that is often curated by some designated curator or some arts academic or someone like big in the
Or an
art
artist.
world. I don't know if there's ever been a Biennale with more than one curator. So the reason why I say it's old-fashioned, at least in the case of Venice, is because these things started in the early 20th century. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was 1890 something.
1895.
There you go. You know, you get there and there's pavilions meant for the countries that were big
What's a
at that time.
pavilion?
A pavilion is structure where an artist representing each country displays the production they've prepared for the Biennale. But bear in mind that when they were doing this in the 19th century, you have like France, Germany, and England. Nothing else mattered. And all the others were like, scattered somewhere around. And then when like world wars were over and superpowers were no longer a thing, other pavilions from other countries started appearing. But then you have the issue of, you know, what is a French artist? Mostly when you get there in the pavilion, there's this artist in, I don't know, you go to the Danish pavilion and there was this woman who had like Palestinian ancestry doing a work about the Middle East in Denmark. It's
Well, that
kind of,
probably just shows how multicultural society is becoming.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great way of looking at, of seeing how globalization is happening, but it renders outdated the concept of the pavilion of a country.
Basically, it's loads of little buildings. You walk around, every country has a building. That's it.
Most.
And
But
then you have one.
Most. And
I
then
don't
you
recall
have
seeing a North
big,
Korean pavilion.
you have big like warehouse sort of buildings where it's like little sections for each country.
Yeah.
But it was long. But the thing is, we were told a few of them might not be open because of the flooding.
Should we tell the story on the getting on the boat and then somebody just saying, "Oh, wait a minute."
That was my supposedly roommate.
Well,
which we met after we got off the plane.
Right,
We
right.
got introduced to her and everything. And
Yeah,
5 minutes
so, like,
later,
So her parents or like her family members apparently were just like sending her images of how it's dangerous and stuff, even though the hotel that we're staying is actually higher on the higher side, so it's not unlikely to be flooded, which it didn't.
it was above the.
But basically, she was already there and she was about to board the boat, and then she just turned around and went home.
The
Back to
faces
London.
of our professors were appalled.
Grim, to say the least.
They've just given up.
My mum honestly was like, it's going to be so cool when you go, like you'll be able to tell your children about the time you went to Venice before she thinks there'll be a solution by then. She's like, you'll be able to tell your children about it. Like you went when it was flooded. It's going to be like a once in a lifetime kind of thing.
So an unpopular opinion amongst Italians, but I enjoyed Venice far more this time than the time I went in summer.
I fully agree.
And it was a different kind of flood because it was tourists that day.
Yeah, I agree. I
was
really didn't like it
impossible
last
to
time
see
I
anything.
went.
Then
Yeah,
again,
too
our tour guide almost stabbed me when I said I loved St. Marcus Square flooded. She
No,
looked at me like,
you can't tell it someone from Venice. I love it when St. Mark's Square.
Because like they actually.
it was a merely aesthetic comment, but yeah.
Yeah, but no.
Yeah, she
The thing is,
honestly
like,
wanted
people
to know.
actually do suffer when it's flooded.
I mean,
Yeah.
all those restaurants and those
Yeah.
shops,
Do you
I mean,
know
they cannot
how
open.
hard it was to find a bar?
We didn't find one.
That's the
We
true
never
crime.
found a bar.
We found one, I think, and then they kicked us out at 10.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
but it was like 20 meters away from the hotel, so.
So I think what's important to note is that the lecturers or professors had made a plan for us every day to do something. So basically every minute of the day was scheduled, but because of the floods, we ended up having
Free time.
chunks of
Yeah.
time that were free. And although I knew you guys, I didn't really know Christy as well, but although I knew you guys, we literally spent every minute of the trip together.
We lulled so hard.
So the first day, what did we do?
The first day,
The first
it
full
was
day.
Yeah,
First full day.
Yeah, we went to the
Biennale,
Giardini, no? Yeah,
Giardini,
I can't remember.
the
which
Giardini.
is the main part of the Venice
I,
Biennale with all the pavilions.
Where it's like separate by the countries, where every country has a building.
Yeah.
And Nationale is like this one long strip of building with some countries with their whole section, but also with just like a very large curated space, very messy most of the time, but really confusing.
Right.
I'm gonna have to special mention the Belgian pavilion because that was.
I was no. I was about to say, should we do individual highlights? So each of us.
Can I
gives
do
their
Belgium?
favorite.
I talk about it every day.
I was
Sure.
going to talk about Belgium. Okay, you seem eager to talk about Belgium.
Yeah, just please do.
Why don't you tell us
talk
about
about my pavilion?
I think we had seen Spain, and it was the most disappointing thing I'd ever seen in my whole life.
Sad.
As a Spanish person myself, I
Yes,
agree.
we tried to see everyone.
This is not an attack on our country.
It's not an attack.
It is true.
It's just the truth. We'd all gone to see each other's country's pavilions to be nice. And we went to Belgium. It was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. It was like these weird life-size sculptures of people dressed in sort of 1800s clothing, churning butter. I don't know, using
like
one of those
in prison cells.
Yeah,
in prison cells.
With the creepiest smiles ever.
It was honestly quintessentially how you imagine a country bumpkin from the 1800s. That was the entire pavilion. There was fake bread there. There was the weirdest thing, and they were all moving. So they, like there was a figure who would be like weaving and making a tapestry, and they kept moving. I was fully mesmerized, and I asked Finn, "Is this what Belgium's like?" And he said no, but I don't believe that.
Actually.
I don't believe that. I think that's what Belgium's like.
You should come to visit to find out, but I don't think it's what Belgium looks like.
I've been to Belgium, and that's exactly what it looked like.
Let me just say that
you've driven through the west, because when you arrive from the UK by car, you just enter into the west, and that's kind of the most.
If I'm not mistaken, it's your favorite because of the.
I just thought it was hilarious.
Right.
It was exactly how you imagine, like all those, like Holland, Belgium, that kind of thing. Okay, not now, maybe 200 years ago, but it's sort of exactly how I would imagine it. Like he really hit the nail on the head.
That's true.
And it was weird.
And after when you slept on your experience at that pavilion, did you achieve a higher understanding of it? Or
Absolutely not. I don't think it was made for you to, for some higher understanding. I genuinely think it was because it was funny. People would remember me. And it was just how you'd imagine Belgium to be. But also, they had a relatively small space. So it felt like all of these figures squished together doing different things. And also, they did look creepy. And there were so many people there. So people were obviously enjoying it.
I mean, it was better than the Spanish one.
That's not saying much.
No.
I think the tickets booth was better than the Spanish one.
Anything I've ever seen in my whole life has been better than the Spanish pavilion.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, dolls is like the word. They look like dolls.
Mannequins was a better word.
Okay, mannequins maybe, yeah.
No, because mannequins is like they have life-like proportions. Those people were stodgy.
No, they were life proportionate, weren't they?
Yeah, but stodgy.
They were.
Like you know they've only been eating carbs.
I see.
Oh, you really dedicated to that pavilion.
Yeah, you really dived into it, yeah.
I loved it. I'm going to Google the artist to go to anything he ever makes. I'm going to Belgium, actually to come.
So there you go. Google Biennale 2019,
that's my
Belgium
favorite.
Pavilion, and you'll love it.
Which one was that?
I think Javier's was the Russian one.
For a while it was. So the Russian Pavilion was divided in 2 floors, and in the upper one you had this. It was very dark, which is already good for me. And it was this the first floor when you entered was this sculptural study of.
Wasn't it a collaboration with the Hermitage Museum? That's in St. Petersburg, I believe.
I don't know.
I don't remember that part. I know it was a study on a painting by Rembrandt about this biblical episode where the father forgives the son who is being carried away and comes back home. How is that called?
I just have to say, I think the distinction with the Russian one was that the walls, everything were decorated, so it was very all-encompassing, like you're walking to a completely different space, whereas many of the other pavilions stuck with a white wall.
Yeah, it was very atmospheric.
And music. There was music playing.
So you walked into this very dark room, and it was full of screens showing this flames engulfing ruined buildings, and at the center of it was this clay statue of the scene in Rembrandt's painting. But it was interesting to see it was aesthetically interesting to see something taken out of a painting and there physically. It was a different way to look at it. And then you went downstairs and you had this cabaret thing, cartoonish, dark, Tim Burtonish cabaret.
That was so creepy.
It's like a puppet
with marionettes that would dance like this.
Yeah, marionettes on wooden sticks that would go up and down, and behind them were flames, I think, made out of wood.
I think it was plastic.
Or plastic with red lights were flashing. It was very
it was very weird and Tim Burtonish and all that. I think that was the second pavilion I saw, so it's it really hit me, and I was like, oh wow, I loved it. But then shortly afterwards, I went to the Danish pavilion, the one I spoke about before. And I think that was my favorite pavilion in the Biennale. So in the Danish pavilion, you had this video installation called Heirloom.
Oh, right. Yeah,
I
that was a
love
good
that
one.
one.
I love that one. So it's this sci-fi short movie. It's supposedly the end of the world has happened. And it's a conversation between a mother and a daughter. The daughter is basically saying the only way to move forward is to forget the past. And the mother is like, if you forget past mistakes in history, they will happen again. And of course, you could see a very high resonance with, you know, what's happening in Israel and conflicts in that area, in Gaza and all that. So it was very interesting to see this very deconstructive dialogue about it. And it was shot with this ominous cinematography of like close-ups. It was black and white. It had this very like ominous music happening. It was like watching a Stanley Kubrick film, basically. And the best thing is that if you walked out of it and you went to the room in front of the room where they were screening this thing, there was this Stanley Kubrickian statue. It was this black circle, this gigantic black circle. And it was very dim in the room. So you could only see kind of the shape at the top of it. But it made it look much more alien and
Because you couldn't walk around it. You have to literally, it was like a one point of view kind of thing.
It was a one point view kind of thing, yeah. You couldn't walk around it because it was only 2-dimensional. It wasn't like a sphere. It was just a circle.
Yeah.
So it was like the monolith. You would just look at it and it would be like, oh, this is like a monument to something, but I don't know what it is. So the whole experience was very sci-fi, which is my thing. So I loved that one. It was called Heirloom. And the artist was Larissa Censur, which is,
God,
again...
you're so switched on. I have absolutely no clue.
I actually, when we had to do an assignment later, and what I wrote about was this one because I was like, wow, I loved it. So yeah, that was my favorite pavilion.
I don't remember which country it was, so
when Finn goes, we can guess.
Oh, by the way, at the end of this thing, we will talk about it. But like all of these are our second options. Our favorite pavilion was the Egyptian one, and we will tell you why later.
Oh.
It has to be the fucking Egyptian one.
This is the second option.
Do we all agree that was the best one?
That was phenomenal.
But you'll have to stay until later.
Okay, fine. I'm not going to say anything, but I've changed my choice now.
That was phenomenal. Wow.
Yeah. So because you mentioned about Israel, I think I really like the Israeli one. It's not necessarily a pavilion. It's just like this little tiny space. They kind of made it into a hospital-looking waiting room. Right, and you can get a ticket just like a normal waiting room, and you would basically have to wait around an hour or more just to go upstairs, and you get looked after by nurses or like performers. It's sort of like their way to critique the healthcare system in Israel, which is definitely applicable in certain countries or even in the UK where NHS is like incredibly underfunded. So again, like it's very topical, very easy to put them into context of what it's addressing. And I think the whole idea of you actually have to wait for super long, it really hits home. So this is like a little bit more, serious and political. But what I also really loved was the Swiss Pavilion.
Was it the one where there was this video of these people dancing?
Yeah, so it's like completely dark.
Oh my God.
Yes, that one. That's my favorite one.
Great.
So good. And
the Swiss, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's the Swiss Pavilion, and the whole thing, it was firstly covered by this sequins type of fabric that goes from like ceiling to floor, and then it would like start moving around just by itself, and it would open a screen and then into some people dancing. I mean, what do you think it was about when you just watched it?
Having a good time. I wanted to go clubbing after.
I think just freedom of expression for me was kind of the...
Yeah, it was just about them having fun.
Because you also had the Brazilian pavilion with the dancing, which was good too. But for me, the whole idea with the curtain that would suddenly just start moving from one side of the room to the other one, I think it was very like glittery and colorful. I think
it does take a little bit of time to like connect the dots. And it's also funny that you mentioned the Brazilian pavilion, because they were also addressing queer identity, and the people who were dancing in the Brazilian pavilion, they were all transgender.
Yeah.
And it was like just incredibly moving and empowering. I guess like the Swiss pavilion was a little bit diving into the cultural context, or like I suppose they don't really have this strong the Brazilian idea of what dancing is.
No.
In terms of culture. So like you can see how the Brazilians address this by very almost seductive dance, or like what are those, like hip-hop, jungle, a little bit of that.
Right, and it was choreographed, so they were all like,
exactly.
It was like a ritual thing, whereas in the Swiss, it was just people dancing and
I don't think it was choreographed. Yeah.
And actually, both of those pavilions were addressing queer identity and the freedom of expressing yourself. And I suppose, you know, the sequins and the glitter, the idea of like glitter, and when you go into the space, it's completely dark, and then all of a sudden it's like there's a light shining on it, and it just becomes this incredibly celebratory space. Right. And I just loved it. Like, it was so beautiful. Like, that was my favorite, I think. And also the more serious Israeli one.
Christy just explained everything for me about the Swiss pavilion, so that's great. I'm thinking about another one, but we should go to the Egyptian one then. I mean,
the Swiss one was really good. Like, I think I can't remember who I was with. I was with one other person. Maybe it was Javier. I can't remember.
It was Finn and I.
Oh, I think we sat there the entire time to watch it. Like, we didn't leave halfway through. Like, we watched it from start to finish, and we left thinking it was like amazing.
Yeah.
Most of the pavilions, I walked in and walked out. I was like,
Or do you remember the American one?
I walked out.
Oh.
I was a walked out one.
I don't remember the American one.
Yeah, it was like exactly. All these sculptures.
There's a reason why.
Read sculptures about, I think it was
like a skull and like horns and stuff.
Yeah, agriculture is the vibe.
How you'd imagine like a cowboy. A cowboy would have hanging on his wall.
I think it was really just getting into the idea of like minimalism in America.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which, don't hate on me, I don't like it. I don't like minimalist sculptures. I just don't like
it. I like minimalism. I just didn't like the American pavilion.
Yeah.
Same.
We can talk about minimalism sometime, because I think it's a very
good episode.
What's the word for it? Like, inflammatory subject, because people either hate it or love it. There's no middle ground in there. Christy, save this for the episode.
Stay tuned for more.
Next week? I don't know. Sometime after this week.
We forgot was it the Polish pavilion with the plane turned inside out?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that was really nice. Yeah.
That was the Polish pavilion. That was really cool.
I have to say, I really, really wanted to see that Lithuanian pavilion where everyone was sunbathing. I had my sights set on seeing it. They'd closed it because of the flooding and it was too cold.
For the people to lie around.
Yeah. A room filled with sand with actors basically pretending they're at the beach sunbathing, like playing around, like throwing a ball, that kind of thing. And every person looking at it was on sort of like a secondary level looking down. I just wanted to say, I thought it'd be really cool. Who wants to discuss the Egyptian pavilion?
How can you even approach the glory and beauty of that?
I don't think it could be described in words.
I cannot remember the start, though. I can remember the last room.
I remember that you walked into this room and it was full of sphinxes. Like,
I think that was the last room.
I think first you got into the 6 sphinxes that were like looking at you, and they had like TVs in their faces.
Yeah. Yes. No, that's in the middle.
It was basically like you were following a trail and going from room to room, and every room was.
But imagine like decorating something with the budget of an 80s really low budget horror film, and like the most ugly thing, glittery thing ever.
It's like playing on all the stereotypes of what Egyptian art or like ancient Egypt was. Right. It's kind of like they're trying to make a fake low-budget museum about ancient Egypt in modern times, because there's fucking TV screens on those fucking things.
It reminded me kind of like a conspiracy theory, like there'll be like aliens helped with the pyramids and aliens helped to build this, and they had technology back then, and it really made me think about that kind of thing. But as you said, it was like they had a budget, but it was used. To
me, it was like walking into the set of a Flash Gordon episode when they were like they would make this like very silly alien planet where everybody was Egyptian-like, and
it was a parody.
Ridiculous, yeah. There was like at the end of the room there was this big sphinx, like bigger than the other ones, and it had like an antenna in the head.
It had a satellite dish as a head. Yeah.
Yeah, like there was this pyramid thingy, and I think you had to like crouch down to walk past it.
Yeah.
And then that was it. You got out of the pavilion that way. It was like, okay, this is where the money ended. Like, enjoy this door because that's the last of it.
At the end, as you left, I remember there being like one of those tables that you know, like you might have in case you have extra guests that you can fold up. A table, some leaflets like visit Egypt, and that was it. And then it was like literally the money stopped there.
Yeah,
we've got to find
we just
one.
can't anymore.
I think I have a video of us going through it because I think one of you or a few of you went before, and then you said just wait and see. You have to film this. It's the weirdest thing.
Baby was screaming.
Yeah, a cat was being murdered somewhere.
It's the neighbors.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think those are the pavilions. But then, what was the flooding experience like? When we went to the warehouses where they have more pavilions, and they said actually it might be open, but the getting there is the problem.
Yeah,
we did it anyway.
Right. So we all had wellies that were like up till our knee.
Yeah,
and we were barely making it through the streets because the water was so high.
In my wellies.
Yeah. Yeah, you would like come out and like do this with the welly and water would come out of it.
Yeah.
We were
And
constantly laughing about it and taking pictures.
It really sucks for people who lives there. I guess like it's one of those things where you try to make something fun out of a tragedy because that's the only way to deal with it in a way.
I mean, you really, when you walk past I don't know what it's called, like this walkway that goes all around the shore in Venice, of their businesses, like store flooded and all that.
Yeah.
And that felt like, you're like, I'm so sorry for these people. Like, if they have to deal with this once a year, this sucks. This really sucks. Mm-hmm. And you would walk, you would see like doors like floating in the street and like mattresses and stuff like that. Because you felt bad for that, for like people living there. I had to deal with it all day. But I think that it's what Christy said, like, if you have to visit Venice here, it's much better to enjoy it.
Definitely.
At least try to have fun with the experience rather than being like, oh, this sucks. I cannot walk the street or whatever. Like we were like splashing and every time we saw a puddle, we were like jumping on it and stuff like that. So it was like,
puddle. Where is the puddle? The whole thing is the puddle.
Well, the puddle was Venice.
Yeah, I have to say that what was weird is when we would get to a bridge, the water that surrounded the bottom of the bridge, you sort of had to look to see where the canal actually was because everything was covered in water. So you could have walked straight into a canal.
It's a miracle none of us fell.
I know, I don't know how, but we walked all the way to the big warehouses where the lecturers basically said to us, we're not going to guide you there. You make your own way.
Yes, if you die, it's on you, not on us.
Yeah, here's the ticket. There you go. You go ahead.
We're not responsible.
And I think some people probably didn't. We were like living for the chaos. Let's go.
Right.
And once we got there, for the most part, it was fine. I remember going to the bathroom with Christy. Do you remember?
Oh, the bathroom was great.
The bathroom was
we had to, I don't know if it was the same in the girls' bathroom, but we had to climb out of the bathroom through a window. Because it was like safer than going back to the flooded
I remember peeing, and usually when I pee, I really have to think of water, especially because if there's someone else
Not anymore.
If there's someone else I know around, I get nervous about peeing. So I was like, think about water, and all I had to do was look down at my feet. And I just thought this is perfect. But the leaving the bathroom, like it was so flooded, it was like going into our shoes as we were leaving.
We have a lot of pictures of that, so we can share them.
Yeah. Sure. Do you remember when we went to, I don't know which building, and we were like, oh, this must be an installation. There's no light. Like this.
Yeah, I remember it was Peru though, because Paloma, a classmate of ours, was like so mad at it. Wow. We're like, wow, Peru is so like, it's such a good atmosphere. All the lights are down. It's like you can really read the text on the wall. And then you realize, no, it's just the light was out because power was out. Yeah.
And it wasn't supposed to be open as well. I think we just randomly.
I think we broke into the.
Why would they have that open? You couldn't see anything. I thought it was an installation where they were making you put the torch on with your iPhone.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well.
Yeah, right. We thought that. We're like, wow, this is so cool. So engaging.
Everyone was using a flashlight as well who were in there.
if I have to choose the highlights from the Arsenale, which is this flooded warehouse thingy,
Mm-hmm.
I would say this really long, like CGI movie. It was so good, and I cannot remember the name of it.
Wait,
Yeah,
it
it
was
The cartoon thing. I was absorbed. I was just like in trance. Like I couldn't blink. It was great.
It was like a movie where it was like animated, and every time you thought you understood a scene, it would then focus on something in the scene or like take something from it, say like someone's weird face, and then it would create a new scene with this one thing, and it just went on forever and ever and ever and ever, and it didn't have a storyline. It was literally just the most random things thrown together.
Yeah.
It was a perfect example of what surrealism is. Like just getting lost in this chaotic dream of like craziness. And at some point, I remember I was just thinking, what could they do now? And I was just playing the game in my head of like, are they gonna do this? And if they did, I was like, yes. And if they didn't, I was like, this is even better.
I can't remember the time it took to make it, but it was like a ridiculously long time because all the artist was doing was just adding another scene from time to time to it. And that's why we were sat there for, I think I was honestly there for 45 minutes.
You
almost saw the whole thing. Yeah.
I loved it.
I think it was supposed to be like an hour and a half or something.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah. Some classmates of ours did watch the whole thing. They were never the same after that.
We almost did watch the whole thing, but then Mara got up, so we were like, okay.
Okay, as you know, 45 minutes for me during a movie is good.
That's
like
that's more than we could have hoped for.
I really, really find it hard to sit through a movie because I get like very restless, and I just thought like we have so much more to do, and I want a coffee. I'm gonna get up and go.
The person who did the animation is called John Raftman, JonRafman, called Dream Journal.
that was it. Yeah.
Good title for that.
Dream Journal.
Also, I would give a shout out to the pavilion from Ghana, if you remember it.
Oh,
yeah, that was really good.
It was so good. It was this video installation of, I think it was 3 screens, and it was just changing images of countryside and like landscapes and cityscapes of Ghana, and it was beautiful, and the music was so good. I think one of the major things was that there were like these puff things in the floor, so we would just lay there.
Was it mostly like dark green?
Yeah,
no, okay, no, that's the one I liked. Yeah, there was one where I sat out because you guys wanted to watch it and I just was over it.
Right.
But that one I loved.
I think we watched the boat.
but you mean like the actual ship?
Yes, there was a ship outside that apparently sunk in Italy, and the artist fished it out of the bottom of the ocean and exploded. It was very controversial because people died when that sank.
Yeah, like a lot of people who like were stuck in it, and it was like a bit alarming to see a lot of people like posing in front of it.
Well, it was like a boat which had refugees on it.
Yeah.
Trying to come over, and
it sunk, and most of them died, I think.
Yeah.
About the Auschwitz thing, if Christy said, years ago, I was once on Tinder, and a girl had a picture of her smiling in the Auschwitz memorial.
Oh, God.
I think it was the most offensive thing I've seen in my life. Like, I've never felt like
oh my God,
destroyed inside as the time I saw that. He was smiling like with the selfie stick. I was like, oh.
I don't understand. Like people who jump on it.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're supposed to like pretend that they're doing parkour or something like that. I was just like, that is the most offensive thing that I've ever seen.
We will do an episode about this someday.
Yeah.
So,
I also like the work. It reminded me of Lincoln's chair, of Lincoln's memorial in Washington, with a tube that suddenly would start slapping around. But then when you went in the beginning of the Arsenale, you would just suddenly hear these loud noises of bangs and
like whip.
Yeah, and then you suddenly saw the chair and the tube go off, and it was really cool work. It was clearly in a glass box. I don't remember who it was from.
It was by the same people who did my favorite sculpture in the gallery, which was this huge mechanical arm with like a rudder thingy. So there was this puddle of blood on the floor, and this mechanical arm.
I loved that.
That was so cool.
Brush it towards it so that it would form a circle, and from time to time it would like stop and like kind of like shake like an animal. So it did look like it was like an animal that was tamed to do that, and it was like suffering, but had to keep going because that was the program set.
They're called Sun Yuan and Peng Yu's Can't Help Myself.
That was really
and then they also have like a program. Apparently it's called Go Crazy, and it's literally just like flopping around. I'm pretty sure like if you've seen just something about the Venice Biennale in 2019. You probably have seen that work. It's one of like the highlights. But speaking of that room, it was a bit weird to have that brick wall behind it.
Right, yeah.
It kind of reminded me of like the Berlin Wall as well, with like barbed
Right.
wire, and then behind it was like these images of
Like black people, like cut like marionettes, so they had these like obtuse positions of the body.
yeah.
It happened the same to me, because when we walked into that room, it's very important, the job of a curator, because it's to structure a room so that you understand the artworks and you don't confuse them or you destroy their meaning and their essence. Because when we walked into that room, I also saw the wall, and because it was 2019, I thought it was about the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. It had nothing to do with it. It was a wall that was in a school in Mexico, and it was supposed to protect children from shootings and stuff happening outside. I think it was like where it was taken, which is a very violent city in north of Mexico. But the thing is that until you got there and read about it, I was completely convinced it was Berlin Wall.
I think, isn't that great that the first thing that we can relate to is the Berlin Wall, but then it's actually about something a lot less talked about, because the art world is so fundamentally Eurocentric, and it kind of addresses that. It also speaks to the European crowd with similar symbolism, and then it will transport you into, oh shit, there's actually this other issue that is less spoken about because it's not in Europe.
Right.
But at the same time, it's incredibly worth attention.
I saw a meme the other day that was someone saying, here in this room we have all the artworks by this particular British painter using this particular style and this particular color. And then it says, next room, here's all of Asia.
That honestly, that's true. Guys, shifting gears.
Okay.
What about that night when we went for dinner with our lecturers? Let's discuss it.
How to begin.
So I just will explain that every trip, one night, there's a dinner with everyone and the lecturers, and the lecturers do a toast and tell us that we're amazing and we're the best year they've ever had.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's alcohol involved. Yeah, we took a boat. We went to the other side of Venice, and we went to a restaurant and ate pizzas. What happened? We were like, this is our section of the table. Like, no one can sit here.
Remember what we said earlier about the cool people and the uncool people? Well, there was you could see the wall between us.
No, honestly, like, we were on the complete end of the table. Like, don't socialize with us and leave us alone.
Exactly.
We're shouting all night, like, just laughing and...
Yeah.
Well, the lecturer said, like, less people have attended than we thought. So we're going to have more food and drink available.
Right.
I took advantage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we stole
we did get out of there with a bottle that we drank.
We stole a bottle of Prosecco.
And then we walked back to the hotel drinking the Prosecco along the way. That was great.
Because all the class was going back by boat.
And we were like, nah.
You know what? We just walk.
Let's have a walk. Do you remember what was outside the restaurant?
Sewer pop, and all the sewer water was
all the literally poop
on the street.
Outside the restaurant.
And the smell.
Oh, it was
like
terrible.
Fresh shit out of the oven.
It was horrible. I just felt bad for everyone who wasn't in Wellies.
And there were some Americans sitting outside as well, and then they were just completely soaked with shit water.
Right. Still decided to walk instead of taking the boat.
Should we risk finding more of this shit, or should we go by the boat?
I think
let's find more.
We were having fun, so we were like, we don't want this to end. You go on a boat and go back to the hotel. Why don't we just have a walk back? It's only like half an hour.
Yeah.
But also
it took us 2 hours in the end.
It took a while.
The funny thing is that, like, the reason we were doing it was that we said we're gonna get to the bar in a hotel and it's gonna be worth it. So we kept walking and walking and walking. By the time we got to the hotel bar, it was closed.
And from time to time, I remember as we were walking, they would sound out the flood alarms. And it was so weird and eerie. There was like no one in the streets, just us walking on these things and like these really loud,
right, I remember,
like noises going through.
So about that first night in Venice, I'm sharing rooms with Finn, and he's reading The Hobbit before go to bed, and this siren wakes me up at 6 a.m. or something, and I'm in that place between like awake and asleep, and my brain is not like molten. And I'm mistaking like reality with fiction. Like I was so sure the city was being attacked by the dragon. That was what the sirens were for.
By
I was
who?
like, oh no, by the dragon in the Hobbit,
By
by
Smaug.
Smaug.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Smoke.
I was like, what?
Sorry.
But then I fell asleep again because I was tired. Next morning, first thing I do when I wake up and finish in the shower, I take my phone and I write in the WhatsApp group of the classroom, for fuck's sake, that fucking siren thing, like as much swearing words as I can. That fucking thing woke me the fuck up and I dreamt about this dragon thing or whatever. 2 minutes later, the director of the masters, one of our lectures, said, "Thank you, Javier."
I woke
And
up.
only then I realized I was writing in the group where our teachers were as well. I was like,
There's people have written worse in that group.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah,
I feel the next morning I was like, "Did you hear that alarm?" And I was like, "No, I sleep with earplugs in." They were like, "It woke me up at like 6 a.m." I was just like, "Oh, really?" I haven't heard
I slept
it.
through it.
Feel good.
It was very annoying.
And the alarm was basically for flooding. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
kind of warn people like 2 hours before, I think.
It was before the high tide, so you
Yeah.
wouldn't be stuck in like one of those neighborhoods of Venice that would completely be isolated. The water.
Right. But to go back to the last evening, where we walked back to the hotel and we found out the bar was closed, we went back to mine and Javier's room, which had a little lounge. But Mara doesn't call it a lounge, but
I'm not calling it the lounge because it was a sofa facing a wall.
It was the boys' lounge. You're just
boys'
jealous.
lounge.
You didn't have a
You're
lounge.
trying to make it. You're trying to elevate it. Okay, it was the boys' lounge.
the
Yes.
boys' lounge.
It was called the boys' lounge because boys can settle for less. Just for
Ouch! You
Chrissy.
yourself. I mean, that's not fair.
Chrissy doesn't lie though.
But it
It
was,
was a lounge.
anyway,
Massive. We had a butler.
and I think
They
this
did not have a butler. Okay.
His name was James.
They had a room with another attached awkward room, and the interior design didn't know what to do, so they're like, "We'll put a sofa here," but it was facing a wall. Like it wasn't comfortable. It was awkward, but they were the
Oh.
only people who had extra space.
If it was so uncomfortable, why were you lying on that
you
sofa
could
all
also
night
just
long?
invite us to your room. You know,
Yeah. Or wasn't it a lounge?
My room.
you
is
had
a-
more space.
My room's a sacred space, and also I did invite you one evening, and we did hang out in my room.
But Mara already had, some drinks.
At the dinner, I had the wine which we were all given.
Which was a
I'd
lot.
asked for I can't remember who asked for beer and didn't want it, so I drank theirs, and then I also drank champagne. So like
Plus the bottle we had when we
Plus-
walked home.
that's the one I mean. I
Oh.
didn't have
You
two
drank like
bottles
60% of it,
champagne.
by the way.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. So I drank a lot of it, but when we got back, I was like keen to drink more, but it was obviously
It
everything
was
was
a flooded
closed.
city.
I
It wasn't
know.
open.
I wasn't
Fine, what?
thinking. Okay.
But then, she just put her mind on tea.
Well,
And
someone
she
must have
called-
mentioned it.
She called the receptionist
Yeah.
and
asking
asked for
tea.
tea, shouting for 5 minutes straight. Like, I
Yeah.
want tea! I want tea! And when she realized that it wasn't working, she said, "Te menta!"
No, I have to explain. Basically, they had brought up tea, but it was mint tea, and I don't like mint tea. So when I was on the phone, I was saying like, "Te, not menta, because I meant like anything other than like Earl Grey, English breakfast, like anything." And the guy was just like, "What? You don't want milk or something?" And I thought like, "No, not menta."
We could have helped her at some point, but we were
Yeah,
too
but we
busy
just-
talking.
I'd like
That's
to.
fair enough.
I'd like
Yeah.
to also say I don't really like tea that much.
Yeah, but that night, tea must have had.
And then
We were just
somehow
craving-
he gave us a lot of cups and sauces.
He gave us like 5 cups, and you almost
And
broke
of
all
course, he gave it to Mara, she was
Yeah.
really drunk. And she stood
Please
there
don't
in our
sugarcoat
room
it.
with those
Don't sugarcoat it.
with those cups almost falling over. And yeah, luckily I caught them.
Did you not have an amazing time? Yeah.
I would say Venice was one of the best trips I've ever done in my life. I
Yeah.
do not remember a moment of it where I was bored or... Well, I do, actually. They separated us in groups to visit the Biennale. I was with one teacher who cannot finish 1 minute earlier than when the schedule says.
When
At some point, we were just like looking at the bin, and he was like, "What do you think this means?" And like my brain was pouring out of my ears. I was like, "Oh, I need to stop, please."
I think we were split up in groups to look at the artwork, as Javier said, and then we would be like really upset that we couldn't be together. And we would text like, meet us by the back. We're going to go for lunch.
Yeah. Are you done yet? Come on. Let's go.
To be fair, I do consider the Venice trip as the like official opening of this group of friends.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We were not in class before, but we didn't know we were bonded by fate until we went to Venice and realized we were all like, we can fucked up.
Because we were all in the same seminar group before the trip, so we did know each other a little bit.
Yeah.
And I met Javier and Mara on the first day, I think. Yeah.
I just came up and said, hi, are we in the same class? My name's Mara. What are your names?
We were all very tired because that room was so loud, and we were sitting.
And I was like, I'm too drunk. I've got to leave.
Yeah, they gave us wine. Yeah, true.
Actually, the first time I met Christy was in the presentation day, and she was eating a lot.
Yeah,
First memory I have. I felt like with a mouthful, and I'm like shoving rice in her mouth. Like, I actually got a letter from Scotland.
Yeah, that sums me up quite well. I love food and I eat a lot.
Yes.
And she cooks great. She's a great cook.
Thank you, guys.
Follow us to get her receipts on how to do food.
Her recipes.
Receipts.
Yes. The receipts on the
Just get the receipts.
My first impression of Mara was that she's a sucker. I still remember that. I told you about
sugarcoat it.
Like I think it was at one of the seminar group, and we were sat in the circle, and she was wearing this fur coat, and I was like, oh my god, this.
Right.
What? That doesn't sound like me.
No.
Because you were actually in the seminar. You weren't late with your latte. Your better work playing in your headphones.
Yeah. It's not you better work. It's called work.
Excuse us for clearly.
Sorry that I don't know Brittany by heart.
My first impression, I thought Finn and Javier were fun because they'd come to the pub with me. They'd actually agree. And everyone else would be like, do you want to go for coffee? And they'd be like, I can't. Like, I'm going home. I have my SHY this. And I'd be like...
So another reason why I think we all ended up being friends is because that most people in our class was like, after being done with class, they were like, let's go to an opening. Let's discuss everything we can about art. Let's just talk about art.
Oh, yeah.
And we were so fed up with art by the end of the classes that we just talk about anything else.
I remember we went to Freeze Art Fair, in the first week or something, and we were walking around, the three of us, and we saw this like hilarious artwork that was like just a metal string attached to
the chain.
The chain.
And we were like staring at it like, this is the best thing we've ever seen. And it was actually, it was like the most basic thing, but it was amazing. And then after I said, hey guys, like, do you want to go to the pub? I know one that's close by. So we went together, and then I think we had all decided, like, this is so nice that we've only spoken about things that are not art related.
Yeah.
That was really nice. I was just like, oh, people are normal.
So the lesson I learned from that is the first step into not becoming an elitistic idiot in the art world is don't take it too seriously.
I preferred elitistic.
I liked it too, elitistic.
Elitistic, okay.
It was just nice to talk to people about something that was not art and know that they are normal and they don't want to go to an opening every night, and just you could form a friendship, because you cannot form a friendship just on this like one subject matter.
Yeah.
And it was cool and it was relaxed. And then we said to each other, like, we should do this like every week and just ask people if they want to come but not talk about art. So then I fully embarrassed myself in the group chat, and it's the only time I've ever messaged in that Sotheby's, like big group chat with everyone, and I said, guys, if you want to come for a pub drinks ever, but not talk about anything to do with art, join us every week on a Friday.
I think
nobody answered.
I think Finn and I replied because we knew about it. That was it.
But yeah, I think that was like the first time that I actually felt like, okay, people are not insane here. They're not all about business. So I think the second time that you said that, I think that's the time that I went, and then we became friends.
No way back.
Yeah, I remember that because we took a picture. Yeah, and now we have a picture of the first time we had a pub drinks, which is so weird.
Wasn't that?
By the way, we were skipping class that day.
That's such a negative way to look at it.
We didn't skip it. We just had...
It was very fun because we sent a friend of ours with all our student cards to tap in. And by the time she was in with all our cards, the teacher saw her, so she couldn't leave. So she basically took one for the team and stayed the whole class with our student cards. So in the way it shows that
Mum
we were in
and
the class
Dad,
we were in.
if you're listening, I didn't do that. I was coerced into doing that. I would never.
I think it was her idea.
Yes, Mara seduces us into it.
That doesn't. Mara seduced you to going.
Yes.
Like, come have a drink with me.
Yeah.
We can probably find the text in the group chat.
Okay. It was probably me who said, let's do this. Like, who cares? This is boring.
Yeah.
But, like, for a good cause, here we are doing a podcast together.
Right. Arguably, that this couldn't have happened had we skipped. Hadn't we skipped that class? So yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So this podcast is because of you, Mara.
If we ever make money from it, I'm not saying that all the money should go to me, but I feel like
75.
most of it should. It shouldn't be. I would like about 75%.
Oh wow! Let's discuss that.
We'll
the next episode.
Next episode. How are we going to do the
How are we going to split the money from this? Yes. And if you ever have a chance to go to the Biennale, it's very fun.
Yeah.
Especially if it's in the months where the city is flooded.
Definitely.
One more thing, I thought it was really funny how to see the distinction between people buying fucking hunters wellies compared to
Yeah,
us.
I love that. I was telling my parents about it. A normal uni would be like, oh, I've got to go get wellies. Like, I'll go to any shoe shop and just ask, like, hey, do you have any? Yep. Get them for like as cheap as possible.
Yeah.
No. Our year was like, what hunter wellies did you get? I also got hunter wellies. I got them in black. Oh, I got the special edition ones. I love hunter wellies. I got some too. Like, the hunter welly shop graph of sales must have spiked up that day.
Yeah,
definitely.
Everyone went to Regent Street Hunter.
Well, I went to Sports Direct, got my wellies for £5, I think.
I went to a store where they didn't know they had wellies.
Because he said
And the point is that the guy was saying, no, we don't have that. And they were hanging behind him. I was like, okay, can I have that then? And he was like, yes.
Well, that was the first crack open a cold one.
We succeeded.
I finished my drink.
I finished 2 beers.
Finished my drink. Well, I didn't.
Almost finished a bottle of wine.
Wow.
Oh, I want to do what Christy does next time because I only had 2 beers.
Hey, voiceover Finn here. That was our first Crack Open a Cold One episode. Hope you enjoyed our chat about the Venice floods during the Biennale. We certainly did. If you did enjoy this episode and you enjoy hearing our accent-rich voices coming right at your beautiful ear holes, let us know by giving the podcast a 5-star rating. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you doing? Go ahead and do it now. It's fine, I'll wait. Ah, perfect. You have subscribed. Well, it is time for me to go now, but we will be back next Tuesday and talk about the work of 2 artists, Elm Green and Dragset. And every 2 weeks on Friday, we will release a Crack Open a Cold One. So definitely stay tuned for that. Okay, I really have to go now, and I'm already missing you guys. That's from me. See you next week. Bye. Love ya.